Childhood violence has horrifying long-term effects. After I ran away from my extremely violent parents, I thought I could teach myself to speak and interact just like a normal person. I thought that if I analysed in very great detail the way other people entered a room, spoke, interacted, their body language, their micro-expressions, their verbal intonations, the way they articulated their words, I thought if I studied in very great detail the way other people interacted, I could learn how to act just like a normal person. When you have extreme violence at home, when your parents can unleash upon you at any moment, if you accidentally rattle a teaspoon, your parents savagely bash you. If you rustle a newspaper, your parents savagely bash you. If you say the wrong thing or give the wrong answer to a question, your parents savagely bash you. If you make the stupid mistake of revealing anything at all to a stranger, you mention what brand of car your parents drive, or what suburb you live in, absolutely anything, your parents become extremely violent. If my violent father was talking and I accidentally inhaled or exhaled too loudly, he took that as a sign of disrespect or contempt for him, and he would violently assault me. He would hit me in the head repeatedly with a shifting spanner and say, "You effing little cunt, I will effing do you," and all the usual threats. What would happen is I would learn to tiptoe into every room. Every time I ever walk through a doorway, even today, I carefully tilt my head on one side to look round one side of the doorway, and I tilt my head on the other side and look round the other side of the doorway. I'm looking to see if there's anybody on either side of the doorway. And the reason is this. When I went to school, after such extreme violence at home, anytime anybody came near me, anytime another student came near me, I would throw up my hands to protect myself. Anytime a student in front of me turned around to look at me, I would throw up my hands to protect myself. I became so accustomed to the violence that anytime anybody came anywhere near me, anytime anybody looked at me, my body began to shake and tremble. Now, unfortunately, as soon as people came near me, I would back away, I would put my hands up to protect myself.
This led the other children to believe I was an easy target.
And I should be punched day in, day out. My violent father said I was never, ever, ever allowed to hit back, and he would effing murder me if there was the slightest hint of trouble from school. So if I ever hit back, and the word got back to my father, he might not just try and murder me, but the entire family. So I had to spend all of my school years being punched, but never hitting back. And any time people came near me, I would flinch. Anytime I was the center of attention, my whole body would start to tremble. I could see it happening to myself, and I tried my hardest to stop my body from trembling. I tried my hardest to stop my hands from shaking, my arms from shaking. Even my stupid jaw would start shaking. My jaw would start trembling like... And even in modern times, 2 years ago, I was in a workplace. Every time I had difficult meetings with managers, my stupid jaw would start to shake. It would actually start to shake, and I would have to put my hand up like this to try and stop my jaw from shaking. These are the long-term effects of extreme childhood violence. So in job after job after job, no matter how hard I have attempted to control my own body, no matter how much I have tried to train myself for decade after decade after decade, whenever people come near me, whenever people start to speak to me, in particular, whenever I have to have a very difficult conversation, we survivors of childhood violence, we tend to be overly polite and very quietly spoken. A lot of people view this as weakness. A lot of people take this as an invitation and decide that they are going to fuck with us. It would be the easiest thing in the world to teach these people a very terrible lesson, but then society would say that I was in the wrong, and I would likely be sent to prison for a while. So for decade after decade after decade, I studied great communicators, I studied famous actors in film, I studied presidents and world leaders. I tried to copy the way they spoke, the way they acted, the way they moved, the way they interacted with people. And I've learned a great deal from all of them. Unfortunately, whenever I've had to have difficult conversations with people, I can see it happening as though from a distance. I can see my body start to tremble. I can feel my heart start to pound. I feel my breathing become shallow and rapid. I feel the adrenaline and noradrenaline rush through my body. I feel my body going into fight or flight mode, and I try my hardest to stop this happening. I try my hardest to get my body out of fight or flight mode. But it is an eternal battle, and even after all of these decades, it still happens. Even after all of these decades, I know exactly what to do, I know exactly what to say, I know exactly what body language and expressions and vocal intonations. I know exactly how I should be speaking to authority figures or managers or supervisors, but again and again and again, as a survivor of extreme violence, my body betrays me, it starts shaking and trembling, my throat tightens, I can barely get a word out, and other people mistake this for weakness. What it is the after effects of extreme violence. Those of us that have survived unimaginable violence and have been catastrophically betrayed by police and all other levels of society meant to protect children. We must spend every day and every social interaction trying to fight the actions of our own body, trying to stop our own body going into fight or flight mode, trying our absolute damnedest to make our body as calm as possible, for one simple reason, so that we won't be bullied and so we will be treated with respect. And it would be absolutely wonderful if people would understand that those of us who survived extreme violence, we don't choose to shake and tremble. We don't choose to struggle to get our words out. We don't choose to have our hearts pounding. We don't choose to struggle for breath. It's a consequence of the sickening, disgusting violence that was inflicted upon us. If you could show us the respect that we show you, that would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you kindly.